Grambling men's basketball head coach Donte Jackson said it's a new era, a new day and age, and y'all better get used to Grambling being a basketball school. Oh yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor, and current contributing writer at USA Today Saints Wire. We're going to keep it in Louisiana as we kick off today's episode too, so I'm pretty excited about that. We'll wrap up looking at Howard's lost in the first four round of the NCAA tournament. Prior to that, Alabama A&M is looking for a new women's basketball coach, and they want to get this hire done ASAP. But I told you, we are kicking it off, staying in Louisiana, because Grambling men's basketball coach Donte Jackson said that Grambling is a basketball school. That is not the takeaway. The takeaway or the headline, the tagline, that is a question. And I want to ask it to you, and then I'll answer it for myself relatively quickly. Is Grambling a basketball school? Donte Jackson says that it is. Darian Gray says that it's not. It's not even close. To me, it shouldn't even be a discussion. This is one of those things, and I'm going to try to attack this as respectfully as possible because Grambling basketball is really good, like really good. They're in the NCAA tournament, won the SWAC this year in the regular season and in the tournament this year. So I'm not here to disrespect them, but if we're asking the question, is Grambling a basketball school? I would say pump the brakes. You want to say that Grambling's a basketball school right now? I think it's actually ridiculous because Grambling has so much ground to cover basketball-wise. Basketball has so much ground to cover to catch up to football. Like, I feel like I have to be careful here because I don't want it to seem like I'm downplaying Donte Jackson. I think he's a phenomenal coach. I was talking to somebody earlier, and they think that he's going to get some consideration for some other bigger jobs. I think that what he's put out on the court consistently for Grambling is high-level basketball. But unfortunately, that's not the question. That is not the question. The statement that he made is that Grambling is a basketball school. I feel so strongly. Otherwise, I struggle to believe anybody could put up a nearly convincing argument, right? But let's hear what Coach Jackson had to say. He said, and I quote, "This is 3 regular season titles and 1 tournament title in 7 years. I think we are a basketball school. Coach Rob," talking about Coach Eddie Robinson, "Coach Rob is Coach Rob. I love him. It's a great legacy he created, but right now the proof is in the pudding. The only thing that I agree with him," no, there's 2 things I agree with. One is a literal fact. They have won 3 regular season titles and 1 tournament title in 7 years. I agree because that is a fact. I agree that Coach Robinson did build a great legacy for Grambling. But all that other stuff, no, get out of here. 3 regular season titles and 1 tournament title in 7 years is an impressive resume, and it is a sign of the consistency that Grambling basketball has had over the near decade, right? Going back 7 years. What it isn't is a resume that would change the identity of a school. Like, these are 2 different things, and sometimes I think when we build ourselves up, we have a tendency to exaggerate. And when you make comments like this, well, now it's thought-provoking. I hope that Jackson didn't believe that people were just going to let that fly. I hope that Jackson didn't think people were just going to accept it, not question it, not discuss it. Because if we want to play that game, yeah, Grambling's a basketball school. As we continue with today's episode, like that, but that's not what we're doing here. What we're doing here is we're going to look at what Donte Jackson said and see if it has any legs. The argument essentially is that Grambling basketball has been better than Grambling football for a decent amount of time. That is a truth. But 7 years is not enough time to turn around the identity of a school. First and foremost, you stay in Louisiana. Louisiana is a football state. That is not a basketball state. Location is very relevant. Maybe if you were in North Carolina, maybe people would feel like that's more fluid. What it means to be a basketball school is people think about your sport first. People think about Duke basketball before they think about Duke football. That is not the case with Grambling. But here's the part where I strongly disagree. Coach Robinson did build a great legacy. That is facts. And I don't have a problem saying that. But the way that Jackson said it, you would think that Grambling football hasn't been good recently. I'm not that old, ladies and gentlemen. And when I was in college, Grambling won 2 SWAC championships. The Celebration Bowl is a new event. Grambling has been in multiple Celebration Bowls. Matter of fact, I view the equivalent of a regular season title in basketball to football as a divisional championship. And then a tournament title is the SWAC championship, right? Grambling men's basketball and Grambling football have the same amount of SWAC championships in that 7-year period that Donte Jackson laid out. 1. You've been employed at Grambling when they won a SWAC championship in football. What are we talking about? As if Coach Robinson from all those years ago is the only thing carrying Grambling football. Grambling had one of the greatest HBCU football seasons you will see in recent memory. What are we talking about? Are we trying to make it seem as if Grambling football has just been this terrible entity for 20 years? That's not the case. It's not. Like even if they weren't in the state of Louisiana, I don't understand. This argument doesn't have base to me, and that's the problem. I will continuously say this. Grambling has put great performances up on the court. They've been a really good team consistently, but I think that this is a laughable statement that you are a basketball school. When we think Grambling, we don't think basketball. And if anything else, you are still in the state. I went to Texas Southern. I would like to think that we are a basketball school. I think that anybody with any legitimate knowledge of TSU would consider us a basketball school. Do you know how hard we had to work, how hard we had to succeed, and how hard we had to fail to be a basketball school? TSU football ain't been good for 20 years. TSU football basically hasn't been good since I've been alive. Meanwhile, TSU has 6 championships, tournament titles in the last 10 years. This is what we're talking about. And I don't say that to flex on my school versus your school. It's about the fact that we're both in states that are football states through and through. Grambling, you just got to the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history. I do not believe that you can have just won your first SWAC tournament and say that you are a basketball school. Basketball has been better than football for the last 5-6 years, right? I will give you that. But when people think about Grambling, do they think about the G on the helmet? Or do they think about Grambling across the chest of a basketball program? Donte, you know the answer. I know the answer. We all know the answer. You have put up fantastic teams for nearly a decade. And there should be a lot of pride in that. And I want to make sure I reaffirm that, because I'm not disrespecting or downplaying what you have done. But on this statement that you have made, that Grambling is a basketball school and the proof is in the pudding, it ain't banana pudding. It ain't no pudding I'm eating. You and I must have different puddings, because when I look at it, I see a strong legacy that you have reflected or you have commented on, but I also see a strong recent history. It's not far enough to fade. It just isn't. So kudos to you. Good luck tonight, because tonight you'll play. Who they play in the first 4? I don't know why I'm catching a blank, but they'll be in the first 4. I'll be covering you on tomorrow's episode, probably immediately after we'll record, and I hope that you win, because Howard wasn't as lucky. So let's keep it pushing, keep it in the swag for right now, and look at Alabama A&M because they have a need for a new women's basketball coach. They want and they should want to get this whole field quickly. And we'll look at why as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Bettor Together, and we've all played daily fantasy sports. I know how that goes, right? Oh, you want to get in this league? You want to get in that league? We've all done that, building up our teams and trying to take down our friends. And I know this may sound overly sappy, but how about we play a game together? How about we try to make a little bit of money with our friends as opposed to going against our friends? We all have that one friend who just seemingly knows everybody to play, know all the right moves. Well, instead of being frustrated that you have to play that guy twice a year and maybe even in the playoffs, rooting for him to lose so you don't have to see him, now you can go and get his advice on how to make yourself a little bit of money. It's just that perfect because, like the name says, daily fantasy sports is better together. All you have to do is get up with one of your friends and say, more or less in real time on these players. It's simply that easy. So download the Bettor Together app from whatever app store that you use and use the promotion code Locked On for a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Remember, the code is Locked On because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. Today's episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors, and eBay Motors is the perfect place for any car problem or car booster, however you want to phrase it, that you want to use, right? Let's say that you want to put some new LED lights on your car. Maybe you want to get some new wheels on your car. Maybe you want to get some new tires for your car. Maybe you actually have a problem. You want to get a new alternator, new carbonator. Maybe you want to replace the air filter, something simple as that. Replace a headlight. All of those things you can get done on ebaymotors.com. I have a friend who just was in an accident and they were telling me, oh man, I just did this, that, and the third on my car. Sometimes things happen. Go ahead and go to ebaymotors.com, right? It's just that simple. Put in your 1999 because someone's still rolling late, right? Your 1999 Honda Accord. Go ahead and put that into the My Garage section, and all of the parts that are there for you will go ahead and be, or that fit your car will be there for you. There's over 120 million parts on eBay Motors, so you know they have the one that fit for you. All you have to do is go to ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On Sports today, the first of its kind 24/7 live sports network on YouTube. Alabama A&M is looking to get a women's basketball head coach super fast. They don't want to have this linger, and I think that they're smart for it. After 8 years at Alabama A&M, Margaret Richard stepped down, and the move caught me off guard. I heard somebody say that they heard some rumblings of it at the SWAC tournament, but I wasn't in Birmingham, and this one kind of caught me off guard. I didn't see it coming. I was sitting there thinking to myself, dang, why? That's what I kept thinking. It was a genuine step down by the head coach. Sometimes we see people do that out of respect. Say, hey, they stepped down. And really it was a firing because they're parting ways. But step down versus part ways when it's true, right? When it's genuine, big difference. Because stepping down, it's like, okay, I see why it was surprising. I went through the recent seasons by them, and I didn't think that there was anything wrong with them. This year, they were their 5th seed. You lost in the first round. The year prior, like you've had Dariana Lewis, like you've had Amaya Simmons. You've had talent on the team, and I wouldn't say you underachieved. I was ready to come on here and have a spin about Jackson State and why, sometimes when you have a top dog like that, it can make other people panic. But it turned out it was a genuine stepping down. And that's why they say she may want to pursue other opportunities. I don't know if you see her coach this year. I don't know if you see Coach Richards on another sideline in 2024 to 25, but maybe 25 to 26. Maybe you see it then. So maybe she takes a year off, gets wherever she needs to in order, and then go ahead and pursues more. It doesn't sound like she's finished coaching. But now that you have a vacancy, Alabama A&M is right in wanting this vacancy to be filled expeditiously. Sometimes I talk about the timeline of hiring a coach. Most times we don't, unless it becomes an actual storyline. It's one of those things that nobody cares about until they care about it. This is something to care about. We should watch. And it seems like you have the Final Four coming up. That seems primed to be a time when they will start finalizing who they want to bring in to be their head coach, whether that's an assistant coach. Because you got to remember the Final Four, of course, you have the four schools there, but then you also have people who are just congregating. It's almost like an all-star break or whatever you can think of in your sport, a pro bowl, right? A combine where everybody's there. Even if you're not participating, you're there. So I think that that'll be a time when you start seeing people start emerging. You might hear some rumors, some whispers of this person is connected from X school or this person is connected from Y school. They want to take a mid-major. Like I think that's when you'll start seeing people in this. But the main reason you want to get this done fast is not so that you can get the best candidate, quote unquote, but it's because you want to make sure that your three-star players, your big three, understand what's going on. This team becomes significantly less attractive if you remove Amaya Simmons from the equation. Becomes significantly less attractive if you remove Kayla Turner from this situation. Becomes significantly less attractive if you remove Alicia Wilson from this equation. Of course, Simmons is the star. Simmons is the player who, if she were to take a step back, it would be the most impactful of the three. But I believe the combination of that trio, it really does gravitate people towards the job. I think that this is a good opportunity. I do. And when you look at the three, of course, you have the scoring. Like, let's not be foolish. That's the first thing you look at. Those are your three highest scores, but it's way more than that. In this order goes Simmons, Turner, and then it goes Wilson at the end. But it's more than just that. It's more than just that. When you look at what they've done, Simmons is second in rebounds. Wilson is first. Simmons has the most steals on the team. Turner is second in assists. Simmons is third. Wilson has the second most blocks. Simmons and Turner are your only two players who have taken more than 100 threes in last season. And Simmons happened to be the most efficient. The only person more efficient at shooting three-pointers was a player who took one and made one. That's it. Nobody else shoots. And I don't care if they shot 15. I don't care if they shot 20. I don't care if they shot 170. There's no more efficient three-point shooter, and there's also nobody who takes more than Amaya Simmons. Now, of course, like I said, she's the common person through this. Points, assists, steals, rebounds, because she gets a lot of boards too. Did I say assist, steals, rebounds, points? Basically, when you look at this three, they have somebody who is first or second in every statistical category that you could want. This is what makes the job so attractive. And if you get somebody fast, it's a win-win, because the longer you don't have a coach, the more time that doubt can creep into the mind of Simmons. The more time that doubt can creep into the mind of Turner, can creep into the mind of Wilson. And once you have that, now they're like, you know what, I'm about to enter the portal because I don't know what's going on here. And once they enter the portal, now there's going to be some coach who say, oh, you just lost Simmons? That was a big reason I wanted to be here. And you know, the relationship between coach and player, it's one that can make and break a team. If the new coach has to come in and go clean sweep, or chooses to, both could happen. But if she has to go clean sweep, this is not going to be that good of a team next year. But with Simmons, Simmons was a second team all-SWAC player. Turner was the freshman of the year. With those two and Wilson, I think that this has a chance to not miss a beat. Alabama A&M should not view themselves as a rebuild. Alabama A&M should view themselves as a women's basketball program that has a strong foundation with a lot of room to grow. Completely different, but you only can say that is the truth if you keep your core three. And you need to probably get a coach fast to make sure that they don't want to leave. But as we continue with Locked On HBCU, Howard, unfortunately, they lost in the first four. That's such an ugly name. I'm going to call it the play-in. They lost in the play-in round of the NCAA tournament. We'll break down the key to that loss as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. And are you the type of person who is always looking for the new adventure on the horizon, who wonders when they turn the corner, are they going to have something new, something that they can push the limits with? If that's the type of driver that you are, then I would implore you to go ahead and go to NissanUSA.com and look at their new line of SUVs, which includes the Pathfinder, the Armada, and then also the Armada, and then also the Rogue. March Madness is paired with Nissan, and we use a team each week to break down one of their new SUVs. And the Oregon Ducks are obviously the Nissan Rogue. The team absolutely surprised many of us with a powerful performance in the final of the Pac-12 tournament, punching their ticket to the big dance. They say win life, go Rogue, and that's exactly what the Ducks have done here. So take the Nissan Rogue, Pathfinder, or Armada and go find your next adventure at NissanUSA.com. You can find all three of these SUVs. As wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. Let's take a look at Alabama, or excuse me, let's take a look at Howard. We just looked at Alabama A&M, but let's take a look at Howard because they lost in their first 4 matchup to Wagner. And I think that the story of this game is 3-point shooting. That's what I really feel like it comes down to, because that was the key battle. It was Howard's ability to shoot the 3, which they're a top 20 team in the country in doing, and Wagner's ability to keep you from efficiently shooting the 3, which they're a top 10 team in the country to do. 10 is higher than 20. And in this game, the strength defensively for Wagner won out against Howard. But I'm not necessarily sure that it was really a defensive strength. I just think that Howard had a bad shooting day. There was multiple times when they had open threes. They had good looks. It wasn't about closeouts. It wasn't about dripping down the shot clock and having to take ugly threes. It was just bad shooting, especially in the first half. And they shot 29% from 3. There's only 7 games this season in which Howard has shot worse than 29% from 3. Mind you, this is a strength of them. No one shot it better in the MEAC. No one shot it more in the MEAC. This is what they do, and they do it pretty freaking well. This just wasn't one of those games. 7 games they have shot worse than this. They've lost all but 2 of those games. When Howard doesn't shoot 30% or better, really 32% or better, to be honest, it's a rough day at the office for him, because this is what a lot of their offense is predicated upon. And today it wasn't defense, or last night I should say, it wasn't defense always. It wasn't always Wagner getting in their face and making tough shots. There were open threes that you expect Howard to make, and they just didn't make them. And if you can't make good looks in your bread and butter, it's not going to be an easy game for you. And it wasn't. And that poor shooting extended to the 2-pointers too, right? Like, we've seen a very easy shot for Bryce Harris in the paint, and he just missed it. Nothing felt easy. In the second half, they began to put things together. But for me, the phrase that defined this game was false hope, because for much of the game until the very end, it just felt like they kept giving you false hope. They got into a deep hole because they couldn't make the 3. They just wasn't shooting well. And then they started coming back. But then it got extended. Then they came back in the second half. Then it got extended. And it just felt like false hope so much. I was like, yeah, it's over. I chalked this up as an L well before the game was over. Probably about 10 minutes in the second half. I was like, yeah, this is over with. And it wasn't that the lead was unable for you to come back. It's just that I kept seeing them come back and then get pushed again, right? They kept getting to what felt like a 9, maybe it was low double digits, but they weren't super close, but they were relatively close. And then they would just get stiff-armed. You know, it was almost like fighting a kid where you let them get close and you just push them back some. That's what it kept feeling like happened. So I was like, yeah, this is whatever. When they started making that late push, it was whatever. But they ended up coming back. And the reason I say that the story of the game was 3-pointers, first off, that was the key battle. Wagner won it. And at the end of the game, they got 3 looks at 3. And they missed all of them. That was a very rough ending because you were trying to get into overtime. And you did what you do best, shoot threes, and you got some decent looks, and you missed them all. It was the story of the game, but it was also a heartbreaking way to lose. Imagine going out in basketball, doing what is your strength, but not doing it efficiently. That was a tough pill to swallow. They struggled to stop some of the Wagner people, specifically Melvin Council. He was on fire in the first half. Wagner shot 47% from 3-point. Like, that's just what the story of the game was. Your ability to knock down 3-pointers, which is your strength. If you can't do it, you're not going to win. And that's why Howard is not in the tournament right now. They just couldn't knock down shots that were open for him, 3-pointers or 2-pointers. But I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. On tomorrow's episode, we'll be recapping Grambling's matchup in the first 4, the play-in of the NCAA tournament. Hopefully, we can get one victory. So go ahead and bring it home for HBCU's Grambling State, you basketball school, you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care. Stay blessed. Peace.